You saw the title of this video and are wondering if there is hope for Pokemon. Or you saw the thumbnail of this video and are wondering if Pokemon is done for. Well, I have the answer. Yes. Or no. If you're here because of the title, then yes, there is hope for Pokemon. If you're here because of the thumbnail, then no, Pokemon is not done for. So my last video was a scathing critique on Legends ZA that kinda devolved into dumping all over modern Pokemon, or at least Pokemon over about the last 10 years. But I understand that many people here have only known Pokemon for about 10 years or so. Not everyone is a boomer like me. So in an effort to not come across, as the kids put, cringe, I'm here to extend the proverbial olive branch of sorts to the Zoomers in the audience that there is hope for their Pokemon futures. Wait, only 6% of you guys are Zoomers? Well, I wasted hours studying up on the current lingo for no reason. That is, totes not litty on a stack. 6-7. Well, you may all be ancient beings from the before time, but you can take heart knowing that there is hope for your children's Pokemon futures. Despite not being a huge fan of the recent Pokemon games, I am not totally unreasonable. I can see the light in the darkness. Even this darkness. So what I'm going to do is an effort to inspire hope for Pokemon's games to come by picking out one aspect that I like from a Pokemon game that I do not like, to prove Game Freak can still do some things right. And I'm even going to go a step further than that to show that I am incredibly fair and understanding, and to prove once and for all that I am not blinded by my own biases. I am going to pick out something I do not like from Pokemon games that I do like. Now, this is only going to be for mainline Pokemon games. No Stadium, Snap, Coliseum, or Puzzle League, a game my wife is inexplicably cracked at, like she's actually the GOAT of Pokemon Puzzle League. Give it up for Mrs. Haunter, everyone. So yeah, this will only be in reference to Pokemon games that are named after colors, letters, or medieval battle armaments. The points I decide to pick out could be very large, like entire systems or game-changing mechanics, or something small, like a particular Pokemon design or how I feel about an NPC. I'm not sure which of these extremes my critiques or praises will be more drawn to. I'm writing the script on the fly. I don't know what I'll be saying about any of the games at this exact moment. I'm just making sure you are prepared that anything and everything is on the table. Generation 1, Red, Blue, and Yellow. Legends, Certified Hood Classic Hood Classics. Great games, amazing games, I love these games. So let's talk about my biggest gripe with them. Plain and simple, it's learn sets. So many cool Pokemon, so few cool moves. Rhydon might just be the most egregious example. Rhydon is a rock ground Pokemon with an incredibly high attack stat. Sweet, right? Both rock and ground type moves use the attack stat as opposed to the special stat, and with the 50% same type attack bonus Rhydon gets from using moves of these types, it must have access to a litany of powerful moves because surely it learns moves that are the same type as the Pokemon itself, right? Wrong! Rhydon doesn't learn a single rock or ground move from level up. Only normal type moves. You're gonna have to use your one and only Earthquake TM, which to me just feels wrong. TM should be used to give Pokemon coverage against types that they might not have an advantage against, not to teach them moves that they should naturally learn. Now Generation 2. I was a bit young when I played the original games, being just 5 years old in '99 when Yellow dropped, and in 2001 being a bit more familiar with the Pokemon formula, as well as just being a few years older, which at that young an age makes a big difference. I was able to actually sink my teeth into Pokemon Crystal in a way that I wasn't able to with Yellow. Now, learn sets are better in Gen 2, but it's still an issue. However, my biggest problem with these games is the mid-game level curve. After the 6th gym, to unlock access to the 7th, you have to clear that secret base under the shop in Mahogany Town, and oftentimes your level begins to soar at this point. Then the 7th gym has lower level Pokemon than the 6th gym. Make that make sense. The game really doesn't recover from this issue until literally the very last fight against Red on Mount Silver. The 8th gym is underleveled, as well as the Elite Four, even Lance, the dragon user and champion of Johto, who uses 3 Dragonite that are lower than the level required for a Dragonair to actually evolve into it. The entire plot of the game is Team Rocket is forcing Pokemon to prematurely evolve, and that's very bad. And you and Lance team up to stop them. And here he is, apparently employing the very same techniques he claimed to take such offense to. It doesn't stop there. Next, you go to the Kanto region to fight the gym leaders, and they're so weak and underleveled, it doesn't make sense to even include it at this point. One of the gym leaders is using Pokemon in the 30s. You go through all this to fight Red, who immediately sends out Pikachu over level 80, and it's a shock to your system if you don't know what's coming. Ooh, Generation 3, my all-time favorite period in Pokemon history. I just made a video glazing this generation, go check it out. These are my ultimate nostalgia games, my home sweet home of gaming, but they're not without issues, and for me, the one that still gets under my skin is that there is still no physical special split. At this point, Pokemon has properly taken over the world. The games, TV shows, movies, cards, toys, manga, literally everything to do with this franchise has proven itself to be pure gold, and yet there's still a glaring hole in the flagship games, and that is the physical special split. If you don't know, at this stage in Pokemon's life, whether an attack draws from the attack stat, often referred to as physical attack, or the special attack stat, in Generation 1 this is known simply as the special stat, and it was combined with the special defense stat. It all depends on what type the attack is. Ice-type moves are special, fighting-type moves are physical, fire-type moves are special, normal-type moves are physical. This sounds like it makes sense, but there are some odd exceptions. For example, Ghost-type is physical in the first 3 generations, even though the whole idea of a ghost is that it's not physical. And ghosts like Gengar usually have very high special attack stats and very low physical attack stats, which means it can't effectively use moves like Shadow Ball, you know, its signature move. There's another issue with Pokemon like Gyarados, a water-type physical attacker, and while it didn't have this problem in Gen 1, since the special stat hadn't been split, when the special stat did get split in Gen 2, its special defense is what kept the original stat, and special attack took a massive hit. And since water-type moves are exclusively special moves, Gyarados doesn't get to use the same type attack bonus very well. The physical special split means moves inside the same type could draw their power from different stats, meaning while Gyarados' Surf might be lackluster, its Water Tail or Dive packs a punch. I could go on and on about this change all day, and maybe someday I will, but I'll leave it at that for now. To me, Pokemon at this point was far enough along that this issue that could sort of be ignored in the franchise's infancy now needed to be addressed. Generation 4, another banger era of Pokemon. We finally get the physical special split, among other things. The biggest problem of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, I've never played Platinum, which I've heard is the superior product, so this critique is not about that specific Gen 4 entry, is the Pokédex itself. The regional Pokédex of Diamond and Pearl is embarrassing. It's barren. It's desolate. Brother, there's nothing here. It's why the meme of the Gen 4 cookie cutter team is so popular. It's because those are pretty much the only cool Pokemon in the game. There are 2 fire types in the whole game. No, you don't have to rewind. You heard me correctly. There are 2 fire types in Diamond and Pearl. One of the most popular types in the series, and you have 2 choices, and one of them is the starter, and the other one is Ponyta, a lame horse from 1996. Half of the Pokédex is Kanto Pokemon, and most of the actual Gen 4 Pokemon are locked behind post-game content. One of the biggest draws of a Pokemon game is replaying the game with different teams, and you cannot do that with these games, and that's really a shame, because things like the physical special split unlock so much potential, but without access to cool new Pokemon, it doesn't hit like it could. And Gen 5, Black and White, I've said Generation 3, specifically Emerald, is my favorite Pokemon game, but I think the Generation 5 games are the best. Gens 3 and 4 may have taken bigger leaps forward from previous entries, but Gen 5 didn't have to take big leaps. The building blocks were now already in place, and all Gen 5 had to do was build, and it did. The best visuals in the series, tons of cool new Pokemon, a great story, phenomenal post-game. Game Freak wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel here, but because so many of the most important systems were in place, like I said, they didn't have to. They just had to make a good game, and they delivered. However, even the best Pokemon game is not without its faults. And my choice here may be controversial. You can tell me all about how wrong I am, that's fine. But it's that there were no old Pokemon until the post-game. Wait. Wasn't I just complaining about Gen 4 having too many old Pokemon? Yes, I was. But I still think I have a point here. Most of the time, you aren't going to use every single Pokemon in a playthrough of their original game. Bagon, for example, can't be found until late in the Hoenn games. Larvitar, a Gen 2 Pokemon, can't be found until Mount Silver, the very end of the post-game content. I think it's really cool when you're playing a new Pokemon game and you find a Pokemon you've always liked, but maybe it was a pain to catch in a much more accessible part of a new game, and now you get to use it for the majority of your playthrough. And a lot of the times, I like to use Pokemon from different regions on the same team. Now, I totally appreciate what Game Freak did here. 150 brand new Pokemon, the most in a game since the originals. A proper reset, and I obviously prefer this far more than Gen 4's problem of not enough Pokemon. And this isn't a big issue that I have with this game. Like I said, these games are the best in my opinion, but I had to pick something to complain about, and this is what I chose. Generation 6 is interesting to me because I think it's the only Pokemon game that is truly mid. 1 through 5 I think are genuinely good, 7 through 9 I think are genuinely bad, so do I decide to point out a negative or positive aspect from these games? Let's just cover our bases here and pick both. My favorite thing about these games are many people's favorite thing about these games, and that is Mega Evolutions. Mega Evolution is a temporary form a Pokemon can assume for the length of the battle or until knocked out. Their stats get a massive spike and they take on a new form. You can Mega Evolve once per battle. It's pretty obvious why people love these. They make cool, powerful Pokemon even cooler and powerful-er. Mega Evolving can even change a Pokemon's type. Charizard is finally a dragon, let's go! What I like least about these games is the difficulty. I know Pokemon isn't supposed to be Dark Souls, but man, it feels like they went out of their way to make sure that this game didn't cause anybody to have to bother rubbing two brain cells together to sleepwalk through. Pick your starter. Soon after that, you get to pick another starter, this time from the Kanto region. Starters are above average strength-wise for obvious reasons. It wouldn't be much fun to start the game with something that couldn't even win enough fights to level up, so getting to choose two early in the game is kind of crazy to me. You'll likely pick starters of two different types, giving you very powerful coverage right away. Soon after this, you're handed a Lucario, a very strong fighting steel type, and then you're immediately given the ability to Mega Evolve said Lucario, and Mega Lucario has completely ludicrous stats. And now, after a handful of gyms, you're basically able to one-shot everything that stands in your way, as Mega Lucario is going to be able to mop up the rest of the game single-handedly. The experience share also got a massive buff, and it's now reminiscent of its Gen 1 days and provides experience for your entire team. So not only are you crushing the game with just one Pokemon, but the rest of your team is still out-leveling everything else. Gen 7. These are my least favorite games in the series. I don't think they got much right. 4 island kahunas instead of 8 gym leaders. Bad. Weird totem Pokemon challenges to fight the kahunas. Dumb. Insane amount of talking and tutorials. Annoying. Ultra Beasts. Ugly. Okay, let me rein myself in here. I'm trying to find the positives in this game after all. And I have found one. This guy. Rowlet and the Rowlet line as a whole. Rowlet's a cute little boy with a bow tie and everything. Dartrix kinda just looks like the waiter at a higher class chain restaurant, but Decidueye? Sick. A hooded bow and arrow wielding owl with a ghost secondary typing. Sign me all the way up. This guy is literally me every time I play Skyrim. One of my favorite starters of all time, and hands down my favorite grass type starter. Generation 8 Sword and Shield. Not as bad as Sun and Moon IMO, but still rough. I don't have as much digging to figure out what I like about this game, and what it is how they do the Pokemon League. They make it feel like a proper sports season, with a little preseason show where they introduce the competitors before they start the league challenge. Each gym is an arena with an audience. The final showdown against the Elite Four and the champion is really reminiscent, wow, I've used that word twice in this video, of the anime's league challenges, with all the best trainers gathering in front of legions of fans in person and on television. I had always thought it was weird fighting the Elite Four in a small private room because of how Pokemon is literally life in these games. You would think people would want to see the battles, so it was really cool to finally get that. Finally, the 9th and most recent generation of Pokemon. Something I think Scarlet and Violet did really well were shiny Pokemon. It's not the sandwich system that I like. I actually find the sandwich system kind of ridiculous, but I like the idea of making shiny Pokemon not so insanely rare and being able to perform certain actions to greatly increase your odds of finding one. After defeating raid Pokemon, there's a chance that you find certain ingredients for sandwiches that drastically increase the chances of shiny Pokemon appearing. The initial odds of finding a shiny Pokemon are 1 in 4,096, already half of other games that are 1 in 8,192. You can acquire something called the Shiny Charm that improves odds even more to 1 in 1,365, and if you make one of these shiny sandwiches, that puts your chances at 1 in 683, or 1 in 512 for Pokemon experiencing a mass outbreak. Shiny Pokemon are really cool, and stuff like this makes them much more accessible to casual players, which in a game like Pokemon is almost everyone. Like I said, the sandwiches are kind of a dumb way to do this. If you're gonna make a food attract shiny Pokemon, that's fine, but we already have things like Pokeblocks in the Pokemon universe that combine different berries that improve a Pokemon's condition. Just use berries, a food Pokemon naturally eat, to do what sandwiches do in Scarlet and Violet, with endgame content rewarding you with berries that attract shinies. But I think they're on the right track with completing more difficult content to farm materials to do this. Just don't make it a sandwich. How did I do? Was I fair and generous? I'd say I was. It was kind of fun to pit myself against myself here. It felt like if I was in a debate and someone asked me to say something nice about my opponent. Do you agree with my takes? Which ones were right? Which ones were wrong? Let me know. Like and subscribe, and I'll continue to bring more ramblings about children's video games. Okay, thanks, bye.